Well, greetings and salutations, and welcome once again to the Newsman Weekly Podcast, our 19th episode, believe it or not. Thanks again to local country singer Luke Watson for crafting this show's theme song. Hey, happy Tuesday to everybody. As you just heard, Election Day is near. Get to the damn polls and vote, would you? With early voting starting a month before Election Day, you literally have no excuse. In a few minutes, we're going to be joined by Matt Finfgeld and Jane Zimmermann from the Richland County Board of Elections. They're going to provide us with up-to-date information on everything you need to participate in this crucial election, so stay tuned for that. I am joined once again by Zac Hiser, executive producer of the Newsman Weekly. Welcome back, Zac. I trust you are recharged, rejuvenated, and ready to rumble again.
I'm happy that you're welcoming me back to the podcast.
Well, I got to tell you something, and we'll get to Grant Ritchey here in a second, what happened to him, but I did get a memo from HR saying that I was a little rough on you guys last week and making jokes about being traded and designated for assignment, and that I needed to come on the podcast this week and apologize.
Issue an apology.
Yeah, so guess what? No.
I thought that was a good trade, actually.
Yeah, well, I did too.
New tech equipment, new tech equipment.
Based upon the experience I just had with those headphones, I think I'm going to trade you back. But I do apologize to Zac and Grant.
No, you don't.
Okay, you're right. I don't. Okay. Anyway, you're back and ready to go.
I'm back. You've
got a big event coming up Friday night. Tell us about Newsroom After Hours Hip Hop Halloween.
I would love to. It's Friday night. We are going to be in the basement of the Source here at 40 West 4th Street. If you've never been to one of our basement shows, you can come to the building here on 40 West 4th, go around back, go to the alley. We'll be down in the garage, look for the orange cones. It's going to be good. We're going to have a DJ. It is a hip-hop night. We're going like 7 to midnight. Wear a costume. Phoenix is providing free beer. Doc's Deli is providing free food. And it's just going to be an awesome costume party and a good time. So you should come out.
I would definitely be there. I think Larry Phillips, our managing editor, has plans for me to cover a high school football playoff game Friday night. But I will be there in spirit, if not in person.
Yeah, well, maybe where's the playoff game that you're covering?
I'm not sure. Maybe Ontario.
You could come after, get that story done, and come out and party.
Okay, you have no idea how long it takes me to write football games and do photo galleries. I will be there working till like 1 a.m. So
all right.
But you know what? I will have a beer and think of you guys while I'm doing it.
I appreciate it.
All right, so come out to Newsroom After Hours Hip Hop Halloween on Friday night in the basement here at Richland Source. All right, also making his return this week is Knox Page's reporter Grant Ritchey, our show's official videographer. I said that 3 times. He was on special assignment last week, went to the West Coast as part of a 3-person team to do some reporting on Intel's planned development that's going to happen in Licking County and how it may impact Knox County and all of north central Ohio. So stay tuned for more on that. But for now, Richie, what was the wildest thing you did in Oregon?
We went to a lavender farm on the last day there, and I've never been to a lavender farm. I didn't know that lavender farms really existed, but that was cool. The guy, it's right on the mountainside, actually. You can see a lot of the big mountains in Oregon that I'm forgetting their names, but yeah, that was really cool.
So you went all the way to Portland, Oregon, literally across the country, had your pick of any craft bar, music venue, anything, professional sports, anything you could possibly do, and on the company dime, I might add. And your biggest highlight is a lavender farm.
You know, I don't even think Oregon really has any professional sports teams, do they? Or
they have an NBA team.
Have you heard of the Trailblazers?
No.
They have a soccer team.
Yeah, I don't know what their name is. Sounders, was it?
Sounders,
yeah.
No, sorry.
They have a good college football team, beat Ohio State.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think they were, I don't know if they were away or not playing Illinois.
Did you do any other sightseeing, or do you want to share any journalism stuff with us?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the main concerns is about urban sprawl and like the increase of housing and stuff like that. So that's like that definitely did happen in Sherwood. Housing is a big issue there. They can't really afford a house. I think when I was talking to the Sherwood High School principal there, he said if you're wanting a house, look around $600,000 to $900,000 for a small townhouse. So, not sure that's going to happen here, but yeah,
So,
that was pretty alarming.
So one of your stories will be how the urban sprawl has cut into the lavender farm agricultural movement, right? I mean, what exactly is a lavender, by the way?
Lavender, I think.
I thought it was a color.
No, I'm not sure if it's a flower or if it's an herb.
Well, how do you
Some
harvest?
plant.
How do you harvest lavender?
You basically pick off the buds and then.
Oh, it's kind of like cannabis.
Yeah.
Okay, can you smoke it?
You probably can.
It's
you
it's
smoke
an
a
oil,
lavender?
so yeah, you probably could.
An oil.
Yeah. And then you just press it and then get the oils out, and then you can use it for oil diffusing or stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So at a minimum, you paid attention to the lavender farm. We don't know about intel.
I mean, come
but you
on,
know
man.
About lavender farms.
I'll have a couple stories that come out that not just about lavender. So
Oh God, I hope so. Otherwise,
I knew I was gonna get arrested.
Did you get any did you go into any cool craft beer bars or get any good food or
nightclubs.
Yeah, I went to a nice Italian place. It was actually owned by some Italians, and I had some bolognese there. And that was really good. Went to a craft beer and pizza place, and they had some good beer there. So it was actually trivia night. So we ended up playing trivia.
Oh, did you win?
No, I think no, we did not win. Do not put me in trivia. I'm bad at trivia.
It's shocking. I'm shocked to hear that. All right, guys, let's get to some news. Roundabouts were back in the news last weekend in Richland County. 3 new state-funded traffic roundabouts are headed to Richland County in the next 5 years, including one in Ontario. These single-lane roundabouts, totaling about $10.6 million in construction costs, were announced last week by Governor Mike DeWine. The local projects are part of a $63 million statewide investment, quote, dedicated to projects that improve roadway safety, the governor said.
So these are roundabouts across the state, and then we got 3 here in Richland County?
Yep, we got a big chunk of that. Oh, I can't do the math, but at least 1/6 of that money coming to Richland County.
They were like, those folks there love roundabouts.
They said, Richland County, you get a roundabout. It was like watching an Oprah show. You get a roundabout. You get a roundabout. Richie, you don't get a roundabout.
How were the Facebook comments on that, by the way?
I try not to look at that stuff right now. I know I called Richland County engineer Adam Gove when I saw that news, and I said, Adam, you got anything to do with this? He said, no, and don't put my name in that story. So I didn't, because it really has nothing to do with the Richland County engineer. They do have roundabouts planned in 2029 and 2030.
Oh, you have to wait that long?
Well, the wheels of justice do grind slowly, if at all. The good news is I will be long since retired by then. But they're going to build them at the intersections of Rock Road and West 4th Street in the city of Ontario at a cost of $3.2 million. Ohio 96 and Ohio 545. That's a really dangerous intersection at a cost of $3.8 million. And Ohio 314 and Millsboro Road.
It's another dangerous intersection.
At a cost of $3.6 million. All of these projects will come via state funding. That's not to say it's not your local tax dollars at work, but it's your local tax dollars that have gone to the state of Columbus for various things, and now it at least is coming back.
Maybe we'll do like a how-to video on how to navigate a roundabout one of these days.
You know what?
It'd be
We have 2 active ones. There's one at the intersection of
Middle
Bellville and Straub Road, and there's one at Illinois Cook and Mansfield Lucas. We could put a GoPro on Richie's head and have him drive through that intersection, just going round and round.
Yeah.
Just showing people how to do it.
You want to be my passenger?
No, I'm on my way to the lavender farm. I don't have time to watch you do that. But yeah, roundabouts are not hard to do, folks. Just if there's nobody coming, enter the roundabout. Don't stop in the roundabout. Go at the place you want to go and then exit the roundabout. It ain't rocket science.
And they are objectively safer.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, but some people will never believe it because they don't want to hear data and statistics and actual facts. Richland County Commissioners awarded a $4.4 million contract last week to a Crestline company for a massive sanitary sewer project along the Ohio 97 corridor near Interstate 71 in Bellville.
This is the one we've talked about before, right?
Yes. The wastewater improvement projects, quote, checks all of the boxes in terms of American Rescue Plan Act funding, according to Richland County Administrator Andrew Keller. The project, which will be done by a company called Driven Excavating, is an effort in what should be an emerging growth area in the county. Richie, this might play into something you've learned down in out in Oregon when you weren't at the lavender farm. When Intel gets started and that people begin to want to relocate but not live anywhere near that place, they can live in southern Richland County and get to work in 45 minutes. Well, this area is expected to have a lot of growth, and now they're going to have a much improved sanitary sewer system. It will stretch along Ohio 97 from east of Bellville-Johnsville Road all the way to Hiser Road on the west, near the site of the $22 million YMCA of North Central Ohio Sports Complex, which is going to be built down there with a 100,000 square foot site on 35 acres on the south side of the state highway.
A lot happening at that Bellville-Lexington exit.
Yeah, if you're wanting to drive that way, that place is about to get really, really busy. So,
Hey, do you have any idea when they think this is going to be done?
I think they said, well, if you're using ARPA money, it has to be done by the end of 2026. I think they would like it to be done far sooner than that, but
Before the roundabouts.
yeah, before the roundabouts.
All right.
Okay, just in case.
I just figured people would want to know,
Really? Okay. Well, you got to leave a little bit. I can't put every word.
Stay tuned.
Go read richlandsource.com, would you?
Well, that's a good plug-in for it, right? If you want to learn more information, go on the site.
I thank you for that. I missed my old friend Doc Stumbo Friday morning. I went to the 21st annual Make a Difference Day food drive. Doc was under the weather and missed the event for the first time, but it was really cool. We were outside DLX there in Central Park, and a double rainbow popped out about an hour into it. This event that he started more than 2 decades ago, and it was clear to me and everybody else that Doc was with us and was smiling down. So, Doc, hope you're feeling better. This event brings in about $12,000 in donations and cash, which benefit the local Catholic charities and also Wayfinders, the homeless shelter in the city. So Doc wasn't there, God bless him, but all of his army of volunteers was there. It went off without a hitch, and hopefully he'll be back soon. All right, that's enough news for now. Let's take a quick break. And as promised, when we come back, we'll be joined by Matt Finfgeld and Jane Zimmermann, the leaders at the bipartisan Richland County Board of Elections. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to the Newsman Weekly. Joining us now, as promised, are Richland County Board of Elections Director Matt Finfgeld and Deputy Director Jane Zimmermann. Good morning to both of you, and thank you for getting up so darn early.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Well, tell us about yourselves. Where you're from, your backgrounds, when and where did you become interested in deciding to work elections for a living? Matt, let's start with you and then Jane.
So I started when I was 11 years old, unloading election supplies. As most of you know, and Carl reminded a lot of people last week.
We'll remind people before we're done yet today.
My mother ran the Board of Elections as director and deputy director for 30 plus years. So obviously it's been in my blood and in my family for a long time. So I started out at 11 unloading suitcases. And since then, I've done testing on the machines, helped train poll workers, been a rover for Election Day. And then in 2021, in April 2021, I was hired as director to replace my mother who retired.
All right, so you really had no choice. It's the family business.
Right.
All right, Jane, how about you? How did you decide to do elections for a living?
Well, actually, I grew up in Northeast Ohio. I grew up in Solon. Went to Solon High School, graduated from Miami University, and then when I got married, we moved out to Jogga County, which is right in the snow belt.
Mm-hmm.
Raised my kids there. Before my kids, I worked in environmental labs for 10 years. And then I started doing part-time poll working when they were in school. My dad had gotten me interested in it. We used to go around and campaign when I was growing up in Solon. So that's how I always had an interest in it. Then it evolved into part-time, and then once the kids were, grown up, then I went full-time I started at the elections board in Jaga in '99, and have been on precinct committee person for since '99 in Jaga and in Richland.
So when did you actually then come down to Richland County?
When Bill Freitag was set to retire, I was hired as his replacement. I moved down in December of 2018 and took over as deputy director in January of 2019.
So as Bill, I'm sure, has told you, you had big shoes to fill.
I did. I did.
All right, so the big question, maybe the biggest question we'll get to today. There's a lot of states around the country like Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona. They say Arizona? Good Lord. Arizona. They have a problem counting all the votes on Election Day. I just saw a story last week that said in Maricopa County, Arizona, they're already saying it might take up to 13 days to complete vote counting in a county of 4.5 million people. Now, that makes people crazy in states where the results are actually announced on election night. So what's the biggest difference between Ohio and other states that I kind of talked about when it comes to counting votes? Is it just because the race for president in those states is expected to be so close again, or does Ohio do something different from some other places?
I think one of the most important things is in Ohio, we can start opening the absentee ballots prior to election night. I know not all states have that ability, but in Ohio, we can open them. We can't tabulate any results until after the polls close on election night, but we can have them open and ready to go to where not all states have that. Ohio is the gold standard in elections. I truly believe that, and everything we do from the bipartisanship through the counting of the votes and the official count.
People don't realize it is time consuming actually. When a ballot does come back, we have bipartisan teams that are verifying that ballot, the eligibility before they can open it. And then we also have bipartisan teams opening it. And then once we're able to scan them, as Matt said, we can't tabulate them though. But that does help immensely because it does take a lot of time.
I know I always get excited. Usually it's about, usually around 8 o'clock when all of a sudden the first ballot, the first results are reported, and you post them on the website. And then I tell people, just calm down. That's just the absentee ballots that just got tabulated. So the rest of them aren't coming in the next 5 minutes. Another thing I see around the country when it comes to presidential elections, and you guys just kind of mentioned this, is controversy in the Board of Election offices when it comes to counting votes. Now, Richland County, like I believe all 88 counties in Ohio, you have a bipartisan Board of Elections. Matt, you're a Democrat. Jane, you're a Republican. How in the world can you guys even sit next to each other, much less work together? Aren't you supposed to be mortal enemies or something?
We're both there for a reason, for the Democrat and Republican parties. However, we work very well together. Is there things that we don't agree on? Absolutely, but we respect each other's opinions and can always compromise and come to an agreement.
We both have the same goal, and that's to put on a fair, accurate election and serve the voters in the county. And we do put differences aside, but most of the time we work together. I'm always checking on him, he's checking on me. We really haven't had a problem. We're lucky because we also have a very good board that works well. Some counties are not that lucky. Our board members are tremendous.
Yeah, we also, in addition to the bipartisanship that you guys have, there are 4 board members, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. I don't cover all of the meetings, but the ones I've been to, there's actually like talking to each other. So would that the rest of the country find some way to do this, we could avoid a lot of problems on election night.
Yes, I would agree. Hopefully they can.
All right. Another thing I often hear are concerns, and it primarily came up from 2020, about voting machines being connected to the internet and how people can get on the internet and change votes in different places. So let me ask you, is there any truth to that locally? And have you ever seen any evidence, firm evidence, that internet election interference has actually taken place anywhere in the country?
So our voting machines are never hooked to the internet, have never been hooked to the internet, nor will they ever be hooked to the internet. And same thing on our tabulation computers. When we're tabulating election night, those computers are not hooked to the internet. They're in a loop just to themselves. Even for us to get results to the state or to our website, we have to put them on a thumb drive and take them out to our main office because our tabulation doesn't have the internet access. So, no, they are never hooked to the internet at any point in time.
In summer of 2019, the Secretary of State came out with an intense cybersecurity directive, which we had to implement, and which we still have in place, and additional layers actually have been put on. People think when they walk in and see the machine, that's it. There's layers of security around that they're not aware of.
Well, it's so interesting how technology has changed over the years. I covered in Guernsey County my first election while I was still in college. I believe it was 1980. And we stood in the Board of Elections outer office, and there was a green chalkboard. And every 30 or 40 minutes, somebody would walk out from this private room with a chalk and eraser, and they would erase numbers and write up new ones, and we'd all go, ooh, ah. So, I mean, technology has changed what you guys do over the years. Has it made it better, or has it just made it different?
Both.
Yeah.
I think a little of both. There is a lot more security involved, like Jane was saying. So it's a lot more technical aspect, I would say, to elections than what there ever used to be. But I think a lot of the things are for the better for voters.
But like you said, going back, we always had to post the results at each polling location, each precinct. We still have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like people are going around and checking anymore because they can get it quicker on our website.
Right.
That's just something that's left over from that.
Yeah, we used to have reporters sitting out at the Board of Elections, but now with your website, we just sit and criticize Matt because results aren't coming in. And by the way, we're going to do a live blog again this year, so get ready, Matt.
Oh, we'll be ready.
Hey, Matt, where's the votes? Speaking of that, how do you count votes in Richland County? And do you have bipartisan observers overseeing everything? And what happens if you do have a dispute? Does that happen very often? And what's the process when you do have an election night dispute?
So there could be observers. We haven't had any as far as on the final count for a while that I can remember. But when we're tabulating results on election night, it is bipartisan teams sitting at a computer, uploading the results. So Republican and Democrat at each computer that anything's being uploaded at. And then if there is an issue or a question, usually it would be on, a paper ballot because the machine, you cannot overvote. The intent is very clear. But if there's a question on a paper ballot, then that would go to the board if it was that close of a question about it.
Yeah, as far as observers, both state parties have filed paperwork to have observers. They have up until, I believe, the day before to amend it because right now they just put a placeholder in there.
Right.
We have not had anybody watching our canvass on election night, but that may change.
Right. So the state Democratic Party, the state Republican Party, they each could have somebody in your office that night just kind of standing there.
Absolutely. But, rest assured it is our Richland County voters, employees that upload those results. We don't send anything off and then let anyone else upload it. We upload them right there in front of our bipartisan board.
Yeah, it's not one nice thing about voting on a machine is because I'll go back. I think it was 2000, Bush Gore down in Florida, where we had the hanging chads and the butterfly ballot, which apparently allegedly confused people about who they were actually punching the holes for, and they had the cards. And you guys don't have to hold the election cards up to the light where the chad's been dimpled. And
I do remember those, though.
yeah, those were fun back in the day. Make sure you push your stylus all the way through. And all right, now I know reporters try to be careful on election night when we write about final unofficial results, the stories that we write. And it was hammered in my head over the years, and I scream at reporters. Well, not scream, but I talk to reporters here all the time when they're doing a story on election night to make sure they indicate or include in their story these are final unofficial results. And there's a reason for that. So talk about the process and the timeline for when you come up with the actual final certification of the vote totals.
So you are correct. It is what we call the unofficial results, because we have, number one, there could be absentee ballots that arrive. They can arrive up to, if we receive them by Saturday after election, as long as they're postmarked the day before election, they would be added to that unofficial count. Also, provisional ballots. So if someone has moved or maybe got married, didn't update their name, they can vote what's called a provisional ballot, or if they didn't have their ID. There's many reasons why we have provisional ballots. But if they vote a provisional ballot, those are not counted until after election night. So they're added to what's called the official count. The reason being is we have to do research on those provisional ballots to see, did they vote in their old precinct? Did they vote in their old county? There's things that we need to verify to see if the vote will count. And then what we do is we present that evidence of the provisional ballots to our bipartisan board, which happens about a week after election. I think we're doing it on the 13th, Wednesday the 13th, I believe. We're meeting with our board. They will approve what provisional ballots and absentee ballots get added to the unofficial count, and then we'll start that official count right after that board meeting. And then the board will meet on that Friday, the 15th, to certify those official results.
Yeah, the provisional ballot is a fail-safe, so that anyone that has some eligibility questions can vote. We'll do the research back at our office. Main reasons are if somebody requested an absentee ballot and they didn't return it, and they go to their polls on election day, they're going to have to vote a provisional, because the poll workers aren't going to know the status of that absentee. Another one, which a lot of voters who haven't voted since 2020, the ID laws have changed. They changed last year. So it's a Ohio state driver's license or state ID, a passport, or a military ID. Those are the only things that are acceptable, and those are the only things that can be remedied after Election Day. The voter will have the 4-day period after Election Day, we call it the cure period, to bring valid ID up to the Board of Elections for their provisional to count.
So if I came in to vote on November 5th, and truth in telling here, I've already voted, just you guys can check your records. I'm actually there. But if I showed up on Election Day and I forgot my driver's license, you're going to say, well, you can tell me one or two things, right? You can say, well, go get it, or you can go ahead and vote a provisional ballot, and then you've got to bring us that driver's license within 4 days.
That's correct. Yep. Or if their license is expired and maybe they didn't know it until they went and voted, and our poll worker told them that their license is expired, they could still vote, and then go get that license renewed at the BMV and bring that intern document out to us within that 4-day period.
It's interesting because how many full-time employees, kind of year-round employees, does the Board of Elections have, and how many poll workers, kind of seasonal on top of that, do you hire for the elections like this?
So there's 6 full-time workers at the Board of Elections, including Jane and myself. We have 2 main part-timers that are there year-round as needed. And then seasonal workers for this election, we have about 40 to 50. And then poll workers will have about 400 to 450 poll workers for Election Day and also Election Night back at our office. Our seasonal workers and poll workers, they're the ones that make the elections happen in this county. We couldn't do it without them.
Do you have to, with this presidential election, especially this particular one, which has been hyped beyond comprehension, I think, how many more poll workers did you hire for this cycle as compared to others, or does it really make a difference?
About 15 to 20% more. We're trying to make sure that we have enough at each polling location to do, line control, monitor the floor, help any voter that, again, may have not voted in a while. Our poll workers are trained, again, to be bipartisan and neutral. Inside the polling location is a neutral zone, and they're there to assist. If somebody needs help, it'll be 2 poll workers of opposite parties helping that voter.
Yeah, when I went to vote, it was maybe a week or so ago, there was a a woman in front of me who had a big button on her jacket. And I won't say which party it was in favor of, but the person checking us at the door said, "You'll need to take that off before you come in," and she expressed surprise. But the fact is, one of the rules is you really can't wear something campaign related when you actually go in to vote.
That's correct. The law is that you're not supposed to campaign within a polling location. That includes wearing a hat, a button, a shirt with a candidate's name that is on the ballot into that polling location.
All right. Early voting. I think it began in Ohio October 8th. I think it continues through Sunday afternoon, November 3rd at like 5 p.m. No early voting on Monday, November 4th. So how is early voting going so far? I was looking, I think, at the website on Saturday. We've got about 80,000 registered voters in Richland County, and it looks like 1 in 4 voters have already cast their ballots, including 14,000 in your office on Longview Avenue. So how important is early voting? How does that impact what's going to happen to lines on Election Day? And, I was never a big fan of early voting. I always thought it kind of detracted a little bit from kind of the party atmosphere of Election Day. But you guys got to love that, because if you had to have all these people, 80,000 coming to your polling locations on Election Day, that would be problematic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yes, it would. Yes, we love it, and there's some days where it makes a long month as well, kind of what we're going through now. But you are correct. We've had about 20,000 return their ballot, and it is great because it does relieve those 20,000 from Election Day. So hopefully it there is no lines. We've never had long lines at any polling location that I'm aware of on Election Day here in this county. There is a little bit of a line here and there out at the Longview for early vote, especially yesterday. Sundays are always, when we first open at 1 o'clock, they're usually lined out the door, and that's what they were yesterday, or on 2 days ago. So it was about 45 minutes where they were lined out the door. But even that, they're only waiting about 15, 20 minutes at the most. Other than that, I don't think we've had a line more than 5 minutes. And it is great to see the turnout. I wish every election had this turnout and this excitement. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, because we prepare for every election the same way, whether it's a presidential or whether we're electing trustees. Every election's prepared the same way. Early vote now, the hours have increased for this last week. We opened at 7:30 this morning. We'll go to 7:30 tonight. Tomorrow will be 7:30 to 8:30, because a Tuesday today is the last day to request an absentee by mail. So if you wanted a mailed absentee ballot, we have to have that request in our office. Then going forward, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's 7:30 to 7:30 again, and then we're open Saturday and Sunday.
What are the hours on Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday's 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Sunday's 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., and that is the last day.
So if today's the last day to request an absentee ballot, when must that ballot be returned to you guys by in order to be valid?
So it needs to either be postmarked with the day before election on that Monday, and like I said, we have to receive it within 4 days after the election, or they can bring it out to our office at 1495 Longview by 7:30 on election night by the time the polls close, or they can drop it in the drop box by that time. We will check that drop box right at 7:30. The voters cannot return those ballots to their polling location. The poll workers have been instructed to not take those ballots because they won't count if they get returned to a polling location. It needs to either be mailed or physically brought out to the office. If you're bringing someone's absentee ballot out, like your mother's or father's or something like that, you do need to bring that into our office and sign a form stating your name and the name of the ballot that you're returning, and sign and dating that.
So no ballot harvesting. No, you can't be bringing 50 ballots in and trying to drop them off. All right.
And the ballot box is monitored 24/7. If you want to see some exciting footage, you can go on our website and watch it. And
How often do you have deer in the middle of the night come up and check out the drop box there behind Longview Avenue? All right, what are your plans for Election Day? I know polls open, I believe, at 6:30 in the morning. They close at 7:30. Gives everybody 13 more hours to cast ballots who haven't taken advantage of early voting. What's your plan for you guys in terms of getting voting machines to the polling places, monitoring the vote, getting them all back to your offices at the end of the day? Because that's, as you talked about, Matt, how you began your career. This is not just a one-person job. You got a lot of machines to move and then move back on during an election.
That's correct. We'll have about 400 machines out, a little over 400 machines out in the field for this year's Election Day, which is about 30 more than we normally have. And we have delivery teams that go around and deliver the machines because they are rather large once they're in the suitcase. And then we'll also have setup teams on Monday that go around and follow the delivery teams and set all those machines up. Our setup teams consist of our rovers who have experience, as well as seasonal workers who help us with our LNA, logic and accuracy testing on the machines. So they're very familiar with setting up the machines, and then those same teams will go around the day after election and take the machines down and get them back to our office on Wednesday. As far as Election Day, we're in the office about 5:15 because our poll workers should start showing up at 5:30. And then, like you said, the voting will start at 6:30 a.m. and go till 7:30. We are very busy during that day, whether it be answering calls from voters, poll workers, the media.
Yes, thank you.
So we are very, very busy that day. And then, of course, when the polls close, our bipartisan poll workers will close out the machines and get the memory sticks and return the memory sticks along with all voted and unvoted paper ballots.
yeah, and then the fun begins at our office with the unloading of the supplies and the uploading of the memory sticks and processing the paper ballots. We have teams in place for that. There's teams that unload the cars. There's teams that run the memory sticks and ballots into us. Everything, again, is done bipartisan. We even put our board members to work. We've got board members out in the parking lot. We've got board members in the office. But they watch us as we upload everything. Ideally, in a perfect world, we'd like to get results out as quickly as we can. We're limited by when the poll workers return the supplies. Also, just a matter of how many paper ballots we have and how much adjudication we have to do on write-ins, for example, or any kind of mismarks on a paper ballot. That slows down the process a lot.
Yeah, and you guys have to physically get machines back in your office from all the way from Plymouth down to Butler. I mean, these are not like 5-minute, just carry them across the street kind of trips.
Right. Yep. We're on every edge of the county that you can think of.
All right. Here's the biggest question, at least from the standpoint of local journalists. When will all of the votes be counted in Richland County? Now, Matt, I used to love to harass your mom on election night waiting for the final results, and I got to be honest, you're still chasing her record. So what are you guys expecting next Tuesday night in terms of when we'll know the final unofficial results from Richland County?
So Jane kind of touched on this just a minute ago. So like you said, we'll put out the first set of results about 8 or 8:15, which that is all the early vote, whether it's in person or by mail. And that's a common myth, too. Do you only count those absentees if the races are close? No, we count those first, and that's the first set of results. And then we'll be updating the results about every half hour after that as the memory sticks and the ballots are arriving from the polling locations. And hopefully, 11, 12, it depends how many we have to adjudicate, how many we have to look at, like Jane was saying. We would love it to be earlier than that, but we have no idea with the turnout that we're going to have and how many we'll have to count.
And Jane, do you kind of goose Matt along as the night goes on, saying, let's get this going, let's get this going? I mean, do you encourage the tabulation to move quicker?
We take every step to make sure that we have enough teams in place, but again, it's going to be dictated by write-in votes and how quickly the poll workers can get everything back to us.
Yeah. I love to give you guys a hard time, but I'll be honest. I've covered elections in a lot of different counties in Ohio, and I think Richland County does it better than other places I've been. I will tell you, the first year Mark Romanchuk ran for the state senate, there's 3 counties involved, primarily Richland, Ashland, and Medina. You guys had your numbers. Ashland had their numbers quickly. Medina County, it was 12:30, 1 a.m., and I still hadn't seen numbers. And I had told Mark, or I had asked Mark, hey, can I call you as soon as this is official? And he said, sure. And I was getting ready to go to bed. It was it was around 1 o'clock. I was like, you know what, Mark's gonna win, but I'll just have to finish in the morning. And I was at home, and I hit update on my computer one more time, and Medina finally flashed in. So I crossed my fingers, and I called Mark Romanchuk at 1:30 in the morning. And I said, Mark, I'd call you as soon as it was in. And now he goes, yeah. So he was very kind and gave me the interview I needed. So you guys are far ahead of Medina County when it comes to counting votes. But, all right, what haven't I asked you about that local voters really need to know before this election day coming up November 5th?
We discussed the ID, the new ID laws that were implemented last year. Also, early vote does end on Sunday. You cannot vote at our office on Election Day. You have to go to your polling location. We always have voters, and I can't even put a number on how many people pull in and say, well, I always vote here on Election Day.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
And you can't vote at our office on Election Day. You have to go to your polling location.
If voters do not know where their polling location is, they can always go to our website. We have a lot of information on that website now, or they can always call our office at 419-774-5530, and we'll let them know where their polling location is. And I also encourage voters to pull their sample ballot. Again, they can do that on our website by putting their name in and pulling their sample ballot. That way they can be educated on what is on their ballot, do their research, and that way they'll keep moving through the voting machines a little quicker so we can process all the voters in a timely manner.
The one thing I do want to remind voters, though, it is a long ballot. If it's a paper ballot, you're going to have 2 pages. There's a long list of candidates for the president, a long state issue. If they're going to be voting on the touch screen on the ICX, there'll be a scroll down bar that they're going to have to tap the scroll down bar to get their screen to move up. We have a lot of questions about that in early vote because they say they don't see a candidate or something. So I would just want to let them know if they touch that scroll down bar, it'll move their screen up.
And it is, you have to touch. You don't take your finger on the screen and run it up. It won't move that way.
Right.
You have to actually touch the scroll down, which confuses a lot of people, and I get it. Because iPads and phones and that, you can just take your finger and you scroll it, but ours, you just touch where it says scroll down or scroll up. And like Jane said on issue 1, you will touch scroll down 5 times to bring up yes or no, because that issue has a lot of words in it.
Yeah, those sample ballots are really important. My wife prints it out, she marks it up, and hands it to me so I know how to vote when I go to the board. Now, one of the things, I think we talked about this right before we started, Matt, but you had said something about the audit that you guys go through. How does that work in terms of once everything is done, you go back and double check to make sure everything worked kind of the way it was supposed to?
That's correct. So after the official count, we'll see if we have to do any recounts. We have to do a recount if a race or an issue is within less than 0.5% margin. And then we will start what's called the post-election audit. So we do a post-election audit after every election. And what we do on that is our board will pick at least 2 polling locations, sometimes 3, and it has to equal at least 5% of the total vote countywide between those locations. Most of the time it's anywhere from 8 to 10%. That's just kind of how it works out when we're drawing locations. And then we get all the tapes from the voting machines. So that's why voters don't get that receipt. We need that. We do use that for our audit purposes. So we'll have bipartisan teams that will unroll the tapes from those locations and all the early vote tapes, because we need the votes for those locations in early vote as well. And then they go through, and it's usually 3 races that we're checking within those locations. And, either the Republican will be unrolling and the Democrat will be marking, or vice versa. And then we compare those numbers to the tabulation results to make sure everything is tabulating the way it should. I am proud to say in Richland County, we've always been 100% on our post-election audits. But I think it is important for the voters to know that we do a post-election audit, physically hand count at least 5% of the vote every election.
All right. Well, Matt and Jane, thanks for being with us today. Best of luck next Tuesday, and you know that we'll all be watching. And folks, we're going to leave it at that for today. I'll be back in a second to put a bow on this week's podcast. Until then, please remember what Mark Twain said. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.